The imposing Gothic spires of Crestwood Academy pierced the morning sky, casting long, dramatic shadows across sprawling, manicured lawns. This wasn't just a school, it was an institution, an exclusive boarding academy whispered about in hushed tones across generations of old money families. Its halls, steeped in history and the hushed reverence of tradition, echoed with the legacy of countless distinguished alumni. Every stone, every stained glass window, every polished mahogany banister seemed to hum with an air of formidable privilege and a subtle, yet pervasive, competitiveness. Here, social hierarchy was as meticulously maintained as the rose gardens, and a casual glance could instantly categorize one's place within the intricate pecking order. Into this rarefied atmosphere stepped Alara Vance, a 17-year-old new student who felt, acutely, like a dandelion adrift in a field of orchids. Her quiet demeanor was instantly at odds with the confident swagger of the returning students. She clutched an old, scuffed backpack, its faded canvas a stark contrast to the gleaming designer bags slung over shoulders all around her. Her clothes were simple, practical, and well-worn. A plain denim jacket, comfortable jeans, sturdy sneakers, a deliberate understatement that made her feel acutely visible in a sea of haute couture and casual luxury. She was visibly nervous, her shoulders slightly hunched, her gaze often downcast. Yet, despite her shyness, her intelligent, observant eyes, the color of warm amber, took in everything, missing no detail of the opulent surroundings or the intricate social dances unfolding around her. She felt like an alien, overwhelmed by the grandeur of the school and the impenetrable walls of its established cliques. Her quietness, a natural inclination, was already being misinterpreted as awkwardness, perhaps even weakness. Presiding over this meticulously cultivated social landscape was Seraphina Dubois, the undisputed queen bee of Crestwood. She was effortlessly beautiful, with cascades of perfectly styled dark hair, eyes that glittered with a sharp, calculating intelligence, and a smile that could charm or cut with equal precision. Draped in the latest designer fashions, today, a cashmere sweater the color of fresh cream, tailored trousers, and gleaming loafers, she moved through the crowded common room with an aura of casual dominion, her sycophantic entourage trailing in her wake like a glamorous, obedient shadow. Seraphina was charismatic, yes, but she wielded her popularity like a weapon, her entitlement a sharpened edge she honed on anyone she perceived as below her. Status, appearance, and social dominance were her currency, and she had an endless appetite for both. The inevitable clash occurred during the chaotic lunchtime rush in the main dining hall. The cavernous room, usually filled with the clatter of silverware and the hum of privileged chatter, suddenly quieted as Seraphina's gaze, sharp and predatory, landed on Alara. Alara was navigating her tray through the bustling lines, her eyes downcast, trying to remain invisible. She was wearing a simple, unadorned navy blue cardigan, one that had seen many seasons. Seraphina, perched at her usual table surrounded by her giggling clique, raised a perfectly manicured eyebrow. Her voice, usually modulated for maximum effect, cut through the din, carrying just enough to ensure her words would be heard by a wide audience. "Oh, look, girls," she purred, a theatrical hand fluttering to her lips. "It seems Crestwood has acquired a new librarian." Her eyes lingered pointedly on Alara's unassuming cardigan. Or perhaps a relic from a bygone era? "Darling, did they forget to tell you about the dress code? We're a school, not a thrift store." A ripple of cruel laughter erupted from her entourage, a chorus of high-pitched giggles and snorts of derision. Alara froze. The blood rushed to her cheeks, staining them a painful crimson. Her hands tightened around her tray, the plastic edges digging into her palms. The laughter felt like a physical assault, 100 pairs of eyes suddenly burning into her. She offered no retort, no defense, no defiant glance. She simply shrank, trying to make herself smaller, to disappear into the very fabric of the room, mortified by the harsh spotlight of Seraphina's calculated cruelty. Her silence was not defiance. It was perceived by Seraphina and her clique as confirmation of her awkwardness, her lack of social standing, her low status. She was an easy target. As Alara, desperate to escape, fumbled with her tray and stumbled backward, she inadvertently bumped into a towering display case near the hall's exit. The glass rattled, but held. In the brief jostle, her sleeve rode up just an inch, revealing a small, faint, yet intricately patterned scar on her left wrist. It wasn't angry or disfiguring, more like a delicate, almost artistic etching. Its shape was unmistakable, a tiny stylized crest, specifically the heraldic crest of a soaring falcon, its wings outstretched, identical in design to the formidable emblem of Crestwood Academy that adorned the school's gates and official seal. Yet, there was something subtly different about this falcon. Its lines were perhaps a touch more elegant, more ancient, as if it belonged to an earlier, more ornate version of the emblem. The scar pulsed faintly, almost imperceptibly, with a gentle warmth, a sensation so subtle it could easily be dismissed as a trick of the light. But to Alara, it felt like a profound, unacknowledged connection to her origins, a whispered secret of her past. She quickly pulled her sleeve down, covering it as if it were a private, sacred secret, one not meant for prying eyes. Her fingers instinctively brushed against the cool glass of the display case, as if a profound history emanated from it, a silent language only she could understand. Just as the last echoes of laughter died down, replaced by Alara's shame, a sudden commotion erupted near the serving line. A new, visibly nervous cafeteria worker, perhaps unfamiliar with the chaotic lunch rush, inadvertently tripped over the outstretched foot of one of Seraphina's sycophants. Trays clattered, milk cartons exploded, and a cascade of pasta salad splattered across the polished floor. The worker, a shy young woman who looked barely older than the students, flushed crimson, her eyes wide with terror and embarrassment. Seraphina and her clique, far from offering help, merely dissolved into renewed peals of laughter, pointing and giggling at the poor worker's misfortune. Everyone else seemed paralyzed, either by shock or by the unspoken rule of not interfering with Seraphina's entertainment. Everyone, that is, except Alara. Despite her own mortification, despite the lingering sting of Seraphina's cruelty, Alara moved. Without a word, without drawing attention to herself, she quietly placed her own untouched tray on an empty table. Then she walked over to the embarrassed cafeteria worker. Kneeling down, she began to pick up the spilled pasta, carefully gathering the broken pieces of plastic tray. She offered the worker a small, kind smile, a silent gesture of solidarity and understanding. "It's okay," she murmured, her voice barely audible, but filled with genuine warmth. "Don't worry about it. Accidents happen." The act was simple, unassuming, and utterly unnoticed by Seraphina, who was too engrossed in her own cruel amusement. But it was seen by the cafeteria worker, whose eyes welled up with unexpected gratitude. And it was seen by a few other, quieter students, who felt a flicker of respect for the new girl. Alara's inherent kindness, her quiet strength, and her instinct to help those in distress, even when she herself was suffering, set her apart from the superficiality that dominated Crestwood. It foreshadowed her true nature, hinting at a profound goodness that lay beneath her shy exterior, a stark contrast to Seraphina's hollow arrogance. This small, unseen act of grace hinted at a much deeper truth about Alara, a truth that would soon shatter the carefully constructed world of Crestwood Academy. The incident in the dining hall, while a triumph of cruelty for Seraphina Dubois, only solidified Alara Vance's status as an outsider. The initial humiliation had scarred Alara more deeply than anyone knew, reinforcing her natural inclination to fade into the background. She navigated the opulent halls of Crestwood Academy like a ghost, her presence barely acknowledged by the dominant cliques. She ate in quiet corners of the dining hall, studied in the most secluded corners of the library, and walked the sprawling grounds with her eyes often fixed on the ancient trees rather than the glittering students who populated them. Her shyness, once merely a personality trait, was now a shield against further social assaults. She was acutely aware of the whispers, the sniggers, the knowing glances that followed her, amplified by Seraphina's continued subtle barbs. Seraphina's initial disdain had calcified into a low-grade, persistent torment, a casual sport for her and her clique. Every mismatched sock, every quiet sigh, every moment of perceived awkwardness was noted, then subtly mocked, always just loud enough for Alara to hear. Meanwhile, Seraphina reveled in her triumph. Alara's silence, her apparent lack of fight, was interpreted as definitive proof of her social inferiority. Seraphina's confidence, already formidable, swelled. She saw herself as the undisputed queen of Crestwood, effortlessly holding court, her reign unchallenged. She spent her days orchestrating social events, meticulously curating her image, and subtly ensuring that her rivals, anyone who dared to shine too brightly near her orbit, were subtly diminished. She reveled in the adoration of her clique, a group of equally privileged but less charismatic girls who clung to her every word, mirroring her disdain for anyone outside their exclusive circle. Their laughter, always a little too loud, seemed to follow Alara everywhere. Alara found her solace in the quiet solitude of Crestwood's ancient library, and in the meticulously maintained greenhouse that housed rare and exotic plants. It was in these peaceful havens that she found a sense of belonging that the social world of Crestwood denied her. In the library, amidst towering shelves filled with forgotten knowledge, she devoured texts on history, architecture, and even the obscure origins of heraldry. She was drawn to the historical records of Crestwood itself, to the dusty old ledgers and faded photographs of the school's founders. She was particularly captivated by anything related to the Crestwood family, the enigmatic benefactors who had established the academy generations ago. The old texts hinted at a family renowned for their progressive vision and their deep connection to the natural world, a stark contrast to the modern-day superficiality of the institution they founded. As she traced the history of the Crestwood family, poring over ancient blueprints and architectural plans, a familiar sensation would emanate from the faint, stylized falcon crest scar on her left wrist. It wasn't pain, but a subtle, persistent warmth, a low thrum that pulsed with each new discovery. It was as if the scar, a unique mark she had borne since childhood, was a physical key, resonating with the very history she uncovered. She learned that the Crestwood family's original heraldic crest, depicted in the earliest blueprints, was indeed a falcon, but one with subtle, almost imperceptible differences from the modern, slightly simplified version used by the school. Her scar, she realized, was an exact match for that original, more ornate design, a private whisper of a profound, unacknowledged connection to her own origins. She often found herself tracing its intricate lines with a sense of wonder and growing curiosity, a quiet secret she held close to her heart. The faculty and staff at Crestwood Academy, accustomed to the ebb and flow of teenage drama, were largely oblivious to the depth of Seraphina's bullying or Alara's quiet suffering. They saw Seraphina as a vibrant, popular student, a potential future leader. Alara was simply a shy, withdrawn girl who needed time to adjust. No one truly saw the malice behind Seraphina's perfectly charming smile, nor the profound strength hidden beneath Alara's unassuming exterior. They certainly had no inkling of the dormant power that pulsed faintly from the scar on Alara's wrist, a power that connected her to the very foundations of the institution. One afternoon, Seraphina decided to escalate her campaign. The school's annual Founders' Day Gala was approaching, a highly anticipated event where the most prominent alumni and benefactors gathered to celebrate Crestwood's legacy. It was an evening of lavish display, elegant gowns, and meticulous social positioning. Seraphina, naturally, was planning to be the belle of the ball. She decided to host a pre-gala fashion critique in the common room, a thinly veiled opportunity to publicly mock anyone she deemed unworthy of the event's high standards. Alara, unaware of the impending ambush, was quietly making her way through the common room, heading towards the greenhouse, a book clutched in her hand. She was wearing a simple, pale blue dress, one she had carefully chosen for its modesty and comfort, hoping to blend in. Seraphina, spotting her, cut her off, blocking her path with a dramatic flourish of her arm. Her clique, primed for entertainment, stifled their giggles, their eyes gleaming. "Well, well, Alara Vance," Seraphina drawled, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Planning to attend the gala tonight, are we?" "How quaint." Her eyes swept over Alara's simple dress, a sneer playing on her lips. "I mean, darling, one truly must make an effort for Founders' Day. It's a celebration of Crestwood's heritage, after all, not a school picnic." Her hand drifted to her own perfectly coiffed hair, subtly adjusting an expensive diamond clip. Perhaps you should reconsider. Wouldn't want to distract from the ambiance, would we? Her words, sharp and laced with condescension, were designed to sting, to humiliate Alara publicly. The laughter from her clique was louder this time, less restrained. "It looks like something from a charity shop," one girl snickered. "She probably thinks it's vintage," another added, rolling her eyes. Alara felt the familiar flush rise to her cheeks. Her fingers instinctively reached for her left wrist, pressing against the scar hidden beneath her sleeve. The warmth pulsed, a faint thrum against her skin, a quiet protest against the injustice. She opened her mouth to speak, to offer some quiet defense, but no words came. The weight of their combined cruelty was suffocating. She simply averted her gaze, her eyes scanning the ornate ceiling, searching for an escape, anything to avoid their piercing scrutiny. Serafina, sensing her victory, leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, but loud enough for her entire clique to hear. "You know, Alara, some people just aren't meant for places like Crestwood. It takes a certain legacy, a certain understanding of what this place truly represents. And frankly, darling, you just don't seem to have it." She punctuated her words with a patronizing pat on Alara's shoulder, a gesture designed to demean. "Perhaps you should go back to wherever you came from. This might be a bit too much for you." Alara, utterly mortified, finally broke free from Serafina's blocking stance and hurried away, her head down, the book forgotten in her hand. She heard the renewed peals of laughter, echoing behind her, each peal a painful stab. She fled to the only place she felt safe, the greenhouse. As she pushed open its heavy wooden door, the rich, earthy scent of blooming orchids and damp soil enveloped her, a comforting embrace that seemed to calm the frantic beating of her heart. She closed her eyes, trying to block out the mocking faces, the cruel words. Unseen by Serafina, who was too busy basking in her social triumph, Mr. Abernathy, the stern but kindly head librarian, had witnessed the entire exchange. His usual placid expression was replaced by a flicker of concern. He had noticed Alara's quiet diligence, her almost reverent study of Crestwood's history. He had also, on occasion, seen her unconsciously touch the scar on her wrist. He knew the whispers surrounding the Crestwood family, the ancient, lost lineage that had vanished generations ago. A seed of an idea, a startling, almost unbelievable suspicion, began to form in his mind. He watched Alara disappear into the greenhouse, a thoughtful frown creasing his brow. The Founders' Day Gala, meant to celebrate the school's enduring legacy, was about to unveil a truth far more profound and ironic than anyone could possibly imagine. The sting of Serafina Dubois' words, sharp and venomous, propelled Alara Vance through the grand halls of Crestwood Academy. Each cruel laugh from Serafina's clique echoed in her ears, magnifying her mortification. She sought refuge in the familiar, comforting embrace of the greenhouse, its humid air thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming orchids. The warmth emanating from the falcon crest scar on her left wrist, a subtle thrum against her skin, was no longer a gentle whisper, but a persistent, almost urgent pulse. It was as if the ancient mark itself resonated with the injustice, stirring something dormant within her. She pressed her hand against a cool terracotta pot, trying to steady her racing heart, the weight of her hidden connection to this place growing heavier with each passing moment of humiliation. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to the students caught in their social drama, a quieter, more significant drama was unfolding in the administrative offices. Mr. Abernathy, Crestwood's head librarian, was a man of quiet habits and meticulous research. He had been troubled by Serafina's cruel display towards Alara, a stark contrast to the unassuming girl's diligent hours spent poring over Crestwood's historical archives. His mind, usually occupied with cataloging and preservation, had begun to piece together fragments of a forgotten history. He remembered a dusty old genealogy, long thought incomplete, of the Crestwood family, the revered founders of the academy. It spoke of a branch of the family that had vanished generations ago, a lineage believed lost, but one hinted at by obscure legal documents and family portraits that had long since been relegated to the forgotten corners of the school's storage. That afternoon, Driven by a growing, almost obsessive curiosity, sparked by Alara's unusual scar, Mr. Abernathy delved deeper into the restricted archives. He unearthed moldering ledgers, yellowed birth certificates, and faded letters, all carefully cross-referencing names, dates, and peculiar familial marks. He meticulously compared the ornate falcon crest depicted in the earliest blueprints of the Academy, an exact match for the one he'd glimpsed on Alara's wrist, with the subtly simplified version used by the modern school. The more he dug, the more startling his discovery became. The lost branch of the Crestwood family hadn't simply vanished. They had deliberately retreated from public life, maintaining a quiet, almost reclusive existence, preserving their legacy in anonymity. And the mark, that distinct falcon crest, passed down through generations, was a unique identifier of their lineage, a secret shared only among themselves. The warmth of the greenhouse, where Alara now sought solace, resonated with the quiet energy of a hidden past about to be brought to light. As the clock ticked towards the Founders' Day Gala, the air in Crestwood Academy crackled with anticipation. For Serafina, it was the culmination of months of meticulous planning. She arrived at the grand ballroom draped in a shimmering emerald green gown that perfectly complemented her dark hair and sharp features. Her entrance was, as always, a dramatic spectacle. She moved with an air of absolute triumph, her clique trailing behind her like glittering satellites. She was the undisputed star of the evening, basking in the admiring glances and hushed whispers. She had effectively orchestrated Ilara's social demise, securing her own position at the apex of Crestwood's social hierarchy. She saw a future where she, Serafina Dubois, would be the embodiment of Crestwood's elite legacy, her name etched alongside the very founders of the school. She subtly glanced around, ensuring Alara was nowhere in sight, confirming her absence, and in her mind, her complete defeat. Meanwhile, Alara, having spent the day in the peaceful solitude of the greenhouse, had reluctantly decided to attend the gala. Not for social validation, but out of a quiet sense of duty to the school's true history, a history she felt an increasingly profound connection to. She changed into the simple pale blue dress she had chosen earlier, brushing her hair until it shone, and carefully tied a delicate silver chain around her neck. A small, unassuming locket, the only piece of jewelry she owned, a quiet gift from her late grandmother. As she dressed, she instinctively touched the scar on her wrist, feeling its persistent warmth, a silent source of strength. She had no grand expectations for the evening, only a quiet hope of blending in. As the ballroom filled, a hush fell over the assembled guests, indicating the imminent arrival of the Academy's most distinguished visitors. The headmaster, a portly man with a perpetual air of solemn importance, stepped onto the podium, his voice booming through the opulent space. He began his traditional Founders' Day address, extolling the virtues of the Crestwood family, their vision, and the enduring legacy of the Academy. Serafina stood near the front, her head held high, basking in the glow of the collective admiration, imagining herself as the direct inheritor of this grand tradition. Then, the doors at the back of the ballroom, usually reserved for staff, quietly opened. Into the room stepped Mr. Abernathy. He was not alone. By his side, surprisingly, was Alara Vance. A ripple of hushed whispers spread through the room. Serafina's triumphant smile faltered, replaced by a scowl of annoyance. "What is she doing here?" she muttered under her breath, her eyes narrowing. "That ridiculous dress. She's going to ruin everything." Mr. Abernathy, usually deferential, held himself with an uncharacteristic air of solemn purpose. He walked directly to the podium, interrupting the headmaster mid-sentence. The headmaster, bewildered, stepped aside. Mr. Abernathy cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping over the astonished faces in the room, his eyes finally settling on Serafina, then on Alara. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mr. Abernathy began, his voice ringing with quiet authority, "I apologize for this interruption, but I have uncovered a truth, a profound piece of Crestwood Academy's history that simply cannot wait." He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to sink in. "Tonight, as we celebrate the legacy of the Crestwood family, it is my honor and my duty to finally acknowledge a long-lost branch of that very lineage." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Seraphina scoffed quietly, rolling her eyes. "He's lost his mind," she whispered to her clique. Mr. Abernathy continued, his voice steady. "For generations, a secret has been kept. A direct descendant of Crestwood Academy's founder, Alara Crestwood, has walked among us, unrecognized. Her lineage, meticulously hidden for reasons of privacy and a quiet devotion to the school's true principles, has now been confirmed through irrefutable historical documents and a unique family mark." He turned, and with a sweeping gesture, presented Alara. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice imbued with a rare, profound emotion, "I present to you Alara Vance, whose full, rightful name is Alara Vance Crestwood. She is the long-lost heiress to the Crestwood family legacy, the direct descendant of our very own founder." The words detonated in the opulent ballroom like a silent, cosmic bomb. Seraphina's jaw went slack. Her perfectly coiffed hair seemed to stiffen, her body rigid with a mixture of disbelief and utter, crushing humiliation. Her emerald gown, moments before a symbol of her triumph, now felt like a lead weight, dragging her down. The laughter died in her throat, replaced by a choked gasp. Her eyes, wide with horror, snapped from Alara's unassuming figure to the stunned faces of her clique, then back to the quiet girl standing at the podium. The shy, unfashionable new student, whom she had relentlessly mocked and publicly humiliated, was not just a fellow student, but the rightful, legitimate heiress to the very institution she, Seraphina, had so desperately sought to dominate. The irony was a bitter, suffocating pill. Seraphina, the self-proclaimed Queen of Crestwood, the arbiter of legacy and status, had been utterly outmaneuvered, exposed as a superficial fool by the quiet dignity and profound hidden depth of the girl she had sought to destroy. Her world, built on facades and inherited privilege, crumbled around her. The distraction she had sneeringly warned Alara about was herself, a blinding, humiliating revelation witnessed by the entire Crestwood elite. Alara, bathed in the sudden, astonished silence of the ballroom, simply stood. Her gaze, no longer downcast, met the stunned faces in the crowd, then, briefly, lingered on Seraphina's ashen countenance. She raised her left hand and, with a quiet, deliberate motion, pushed up her sleeve. On her wrist, clear and unmistakable under the glittering chandeliers, was the faint, exquisitely detailed falcon crest scar, its lines a perfect match for the ancient emblem of the Crestwood family, pulsing with a gentle, undeniable warmth. It was a silent, powerful testament to her truth, a mark that spoke not of inherited wealth alone, but of a profound, unbroken connection to the very foundations of Crestwood Academy. The gala, meant to celebrate the past, had instead unveiled a breathtaking future and the rightful heir to its legacy. The air in the Crestwood Academy ballroom, thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and stunned silence, felt charged with the cosmic hammer blow of Mr. Abernathy's announcement. Seraphina Dubois, moments before the undisputed Queen of Crestwood, stood utterly paralyzed, her emerald gown now a crushing weight, her face a ghastly mask of disbelief and incandescent fury. Her carefully constructed world, built on facades of inherited privilege and meticulously curated social dominance, had not just crumbled, it had detonated. The shy, unassuming new student, Alara Vance, whom she had so casually, so cruelly humiliated, was not merely an equal, but her superior, the rightful heiress, to the very legacy Seraphina had so desperately coveted. The revelation of the falcon crest scar on Alara's wrist, shimmering faintly under the chandeliers, was the final, irrefutable proof, a silent, ancient rebuke to Seraphina's shallow posturing. The initial shock among the assembled elite quickly gave way to a flurry of hushed whispers, then a rising tide of speculative murmurs. Eyes, once dismissive, now scrutinized Alara with an almost desperate intensity. They saw not the quiet, awkward girl, but the undeniable lineage, the quiet strength that had unknowingly resonated beneath her unassuming exterior. The faculty and alumni, who had casually overlooked Alara's presence for weeks, now felt a collective pang of embarrassment and dawning understanding. Mr. Abernathy, usually the picture of stoic reserve, stood beside Alara, a protective aura emanating from him, his gaze firm and resolute. He had delivered the truth, and the world of Crestwood was irrevocably altered. Serafina, meanwhile, struggled to breathe. Her mind reeled, frantically searching for a counter-narrative, a way to reclaim her shattered status. This is impossible, she finally choked out, her voice a strangled whisper, laced with a desperate incredulity. She's a nobody, a scholarship student. This is some ridiculous trick, Abernathy. Her eyes darted around, seeking allies, but her clique, usually so quick to echo her sentiments, now stood frozen, their faces reflecting a mixture of shock and self-preservation. Their loyalty, it seemed, was as thin as the veneer of Serafina's own social grace. Alara, for the first time, met Serafina's furious gaze directly. Her eyes, usually downcast, now held a quiet, unyielding resolve. There was no triumph in her expression, no malice, only a profound sense of calm that seemed to disarm Serafina's rage. "There is no trick, Serafina," Alara said, her voice soft, yet resonating with an unshakable clarity that carried through the stunned silence of the ballroom. "And while I am grateful for the scholarship that allowed me to attend, my presence here is not merely by invitation. It is by birthright." She gestured subtly towards the large portrait of Crestwood Academy's founder, Alara Crestwood, hanging majestically above the fireplace. The resemblance in that moment was striking, undeniable. The headmaster, recovering from his shock, quickly stepped forward, his face pale. He understood the profound implications of Mr. Abernathy's revelation. "Ms. Vance Crestwood," he began, his voice now deferential, almost fawning. "This is extraordinary. We are honored. Any needs you have, any adjustments, consider them done." He shot a nervous glance at Serafina, whose face was rapidly turning a mottled shade of crimson. The social order of Crestwood, so meticulously upheld by Serafina, collapsed with brutal efficiency. The tide of public opinion, fickle and swift, turned against her. Her clique, sensing the shift in power, slowly began to distance themselves, their gazes averted, their whispers now focused on the scandal rather than Alara. Serafina was no longer the queen. She was a pariah, her cruelty exposed as petty malice against someone of undeniable, authentic stature. The very legacy she had so arrogantly claimed was now embodied by the girl she had sought to humble. The days following the Founders' Day Gala were a whirlwind for Alara. Her quiet life was shattered, replaced by a constant stream of apologies, overtures of friendship, and requests for interviews. The media, catching wind of the dramatic unveiling, descended upon Crestwood Academy, eager to tell the story of the lost heiress. Alara handled it all with a grace and composure that stunned even Mr. Abernathy. She spoke with a quiet dignity, emphasizing the importance of humility, genuine kindness, and true learning, values that sharply contrasted with the superficiality Serafina embodied. She politely but firmly declined most social invitations, preferring to spend her time in the library, delving deeper into Crestwood family history, or in the serene quiet of the greenhouse, finding solace amidst the plants. The constant warmth from the falcon crest scar on her wrist was a grounding presence, a reminder of her true heritage and the responsibility that came with it. Serafina, however, found herself utterly isolated. Her invitations were ignored, her calls went unanswered. The whispers that followed her now were not of admiration, but of condemnation. Even the teachers, who had once favored her, began to regard her with a subtle coolness, informed by Mr. Abernathy's quiet counsel about her consistent bullying. Her parents, influential alumni, were furious, their family name now tarnished by their daughter's public disgrace. Serafina, accustomed to unchallenged power, crumbled under the weight of her own isolation and the relentless public scrutiny. Her attempts to regain her social standing were met with cold shoulders and pointed snubs. The unwritten rules of Crestwood, once her shield, were now her prison. The headmaster, under pressure from the Academy's Board of Trustees and the surge of public interest surrounding Alara, was forced to take action. He called Serafina into his office, her parents present, their faces grim. "Serafina," he began, his voice devoid of its usual warmth, "your conduct towards Ms. Vance Crestwood, and indeed, your consistent pattern of disrespectful behavior towards other students, is unacceptable. It stands in direct opposition to the values upon which this academy was founded. Serafina, for the first time, felt the true weight of her actions. Her arrogance had been a shield, but now it was gone, leaving her vulnerable and exposed. She tried to protest, to blame Alara, but her words felt hollow, desperate. Effective immediately, the headmaster continued, his gaze firm. You are suspended from Crestwood Academy for the remainder of the term. Further disciplinary action, including expulsion, will be considered pending a review of your overall conduct. We expect a formal public apology to Ms. Vance Crestwood, and a demonstrable change in your behavior, should you wish to have any future here. The pronouncement hit Serafina with the force of a physical blow. Suspension. Expulsion. Her future, once so assured, now hung precariously in the balance. Her reign at Crestwood, built on cruelty and superficiality, had ended not with a bang, but with the quiet, dignified truth of a shy girl she had never truly seen. She stumbled out of the headmaster's office, her public humiliation now complete, her world utterly shattered. The irony was devastating. The mean girl who had scorned legacy had just been stripped of her own, replaced by the very person she had tried to erase. The unwritten rules of privilege had just been rewritten by the profound power of authentic heritage. The suspension of Serafina Dubois sent shockwaves through Crestwood Academy, a ripple that finally reached the deepest, most insulated corners of its privileged society. Her fall from grace was swift and brutal, a public humiliation that solidified Alara Vance Crestwood's rightful place at the apex of the school's hierarchy. Serafina's clique, quick to abandon their dethroned queen, now swarmed around Alara, their flattery as nauseatingly saccharine as their previous disdain had been vitriolic. But Alara, her amber eyes now clear and discerning, saw through their transparent attempts to curry favor. She greeted their overtures with polite, cool detachment, her focus firmly fixed on a far grander vision. The falcon crest scar on her left wrist, no longer a hidden mark, pulsed with a quiet authority, a visible testament to her deep-seated connection to Crestwood's true legacy. Alara's immediate actions confounded many. She didn't seek revenge or bask in the glow of her newfound popularity. Instead, she dedicated herself to understanding the full scope of her inheritance. With the unwavering support of Mr. Abernathy, who now served as her trusted advisor and archivist, Alara delved even deeper into the Crestwood family history. She discovered a trove of personal journals, forgotten letters, and architectural sketches that painted a vivid picture of her ancestors' true philosophy. The original Crestwood family, she learned, were not merely wealthy benefactors. They were visionary philanthropists who believed in education as a tool for social good, not just a mark of elite status. They championed accessibility, innovation, and a deep connection to the natural world. Their initial vision for Crestwood Academy was far more progressive and inclusive than its current rigid iteration. Alara realized that her inheritance was not just a title or vast wealth. It was a profound responsibility to reclaim and restore her family's authentic legacy. She spent hours in the dusty archives, unearthing forgotten blueprints for communal gardens, proposals for vocational arts workshops, and passionate treatises on making education accessible to all talented students, regardless of their financial background. The falcon crest on her wrist seemed to hum with recognition as she uncovered these lost ideals, almost guiding her hands to the most relevant documents. Her first major move was unexpected. She politely but firmly declined all offers of personal luxury, the private suite, the endless allowances, the immediate transfer of control over the Crestwood Foundation. Instead, she announced her intention to remain in her standard dorm room, continue her studies, and, crucially, to work closely with the headmaster and the board of trustees to implement tangible, transformative changes to the academy. Her primary focus was not on her own comfort, but on the school's future. Alara's quiet authority and thoughtful approach quickly garnered respect from the faculty and the more genuinely dedicated students. The headmaster, initially flustered by the unexpected turn of events, soon recognized the profound value Alara brought. Her proposals were meticulously researched, driven by a genuine passion for education, and undeniably rooted in the founder's original vision, making them difficult to oppose. Her primary target was the Academy's antiquated scholarship program, which currently favored students from specific privileged feeder schools. Ilara, leveraging her newfound influence and the detailed financial records from the family archives, proposed a radical overhaul. She advocated for a merit-based scholarship system that prioritized talent and potential from all socioeconomic backgrounds, coupled with a robust support system for students from underserved communities. She wanted to open Crestwood's hallowed halls to students who possessed genuine brilliance and drive, not just inherited wealth. Her argument was simple, yet powerful. My ancestors believed in cultivating minds, not just maintaining status. True legacy is built on opportunity, not exclusivity. She didn't stop there. Inspired by the peace she found in the greenhouse and her ancestors' love for nature, Ilara initiated the Crestwood Green Space Project. This ambitious plan aimed to transform underutilized areas of the sprawling campus into communal gardens, outdoor classrooms, and quiet reflection spaces. She also proposed the establishment of a vocational arts and sustainability program, drawing from old family notes that spoke of the importance of practical skills alongside academic pursuits. This program would offer workshops in carpentry, horticulture, textile arts, and sustainable living, providing students with hands-on skills and fostering a deeper connection to the environment. The greenhouse, her sanctuary, was designated as the heart of this new initiative, its ancient foundations now serving a vibrant, living purpose. While Ilara was busy building a new future for Crestwood, Serafina was experiencing the full, bitter taste of her downfall. Her suspension was a public stain on her family's impeccable reputation. Her parents, furious at the damage to their social standing, enrolled her in a strict remote online academy, effectively exiling her from the elite circles she so desperately craved. Stripped of her social power, her entourage, and the constant adoration that fed her ego, Serafina withered. She was forced to confront the emptiness of her own values, the hollowness of a life built solely on external validation. The irony of her fate was a cruel, relentless mirror, reflecting back the superficiality she had once championed. She learned, belatedly, that true legacy was not something inherited, but something earned through character and genuine contribution. Her attempts to reconnect with old friends were met with cold indifference, her name now synonymous with shame and humiliation. The culmination of Ilara's initial efforts came during the end-of-year assembly, traditionally a formal affair where academic achievements were lauded. This year, however, it felt different. The air buzzed with a quiet energy, a sense of genuine change. The headmaster, his face beaming with a newfound pride, stood at the podium. This year, Crestwood Academy embarks on a new chapter, he announced, his voice ringing with conviction. Inspired by the vision of our founder and brought to life by the dedication of her direct descendant, Ms. Ilara Vance Crestwood, we are proud to announce the immediate implementation of the merit-based scholarship overhaul, opening our doors to a wider pool of exceptional talent. We are also breaking ground on the Crestwood Green Space Project and establishing our new vocational arts and sustainability program. He then invited Ilara to speak. She walked to the podium, not with pomp or fanfare, but with the quiet dignity that had become her hallmark. Her simple blue dress, once mocked, now seemed a symbol of authentic elegance. She spoke not of herself, but of the Academy's true spirit, of the importance of kindness, resilience, and the power of embracing one's unique voice. She emphasized the value of every individual, regardless of their background, and spoke passionately about cultivating not just minds, but hearts. As she spoke, she unconsciously reached for her left wrist, her fingers brushing over the falcon crest scar. It pulsed with a steady, reassuring warmth, a silent testament to the long-lost vision of her ancestors finally taking root. In that moment, Ilara Vance Crestwood was not just the heiress, she was the living embodiment of Crestwood Academy's future, a future built on inclusion, compassion, and a profound respect for the inherent dignity of every student. The mean girl had humiliated the shy new student, only to unwittingly unveil the very heir who would transform the school's legacy, ushering in an era where true worth was measured not by privilege, but by genuine character and a commitment to a greater good. The unwritten rules of social standing had been rewritten, replaced by the enduring power of a vision that truly soared. Crestwood Academy had undergone a metamorphosis. The rigid, exclusive institution that Serafina Dubois had once ruled with an iron fist was now a vibrant, inclusive hub of learning, a true testament to the vision of Ilara Vance Crestwood. The Gothic spires still stood proudly, but the atmosphere beneath them hummed with a different energy, one of collaboration, diversity, and genuine academic passion. The falcon crest scar on Ilara's left wrist, now a prominent symbol of the Academy's revitalized logo, seemed to pulse with a quiet, steady warmth, echoing the flourishing environment she had cultivated. It adorned the new, beautifully designed brochures and was subtly incorporated into the architecture of the newly renovated spaces. Ilara, now 19, moved through the halls not as a shy, awkward new student, but with the quiet confidence of a leader who inspired genuine respect. Her amber eyes, once downcast, now held a bright, discerning gaze, keenly observing the positive changes unfolding around her. She had declined the offer of the headmaster position, preferring to remain a student while serving as the chair of the Crestwood Legacy Committee, a newly formed body dedicated to upholding the founder's original principles. Under her guidance, Crestwood had implemented sweeping reforms that resonated far beyond its manicured lawns. The merit-based scholarship system, championed by Ilara, was flourishing. The student body was now wonderfully diverse, a rich tapestry of backgrounds, cultures, and talents. Students from urban inner-city schools, rural communities, and international conflict zones mingled with those from traditional elite families, all united by their intellectual curiosity and shared commitment to learning. The Academy's academic standing, far from being diminished by this expansion, had soared, fueled by the fresh perspectives and varied experiences of its new intake. Ilara personally mentored many of the new scholarship students, often meeting them in the rejuvenated greenhouse, now known as the Crestwood Learning Conservatory, sharing stories of her own journey and emphasizing the importance of resilience and embracing one's unique voice. She helped them navigate the often intimidating transition, fostering a sense of belonging that she herself had once yearned for. The Crestwood Green Space Project had transformed vast swathes of the campus. Lush communal gardens bloomed where manicured, unused lawns once lay, tended by students and faculty alike. Outdoor classrooms offered immersive learning experiences under ancient oak trees. Quiet reflection ponds, designed by students in the new vocational arts program, dotted the landscape, providing serene escapes from academic pressures. The greenhouse, Ilara's former sanctuary, was now a bustling hub of activity, a living laboratory for the vocational arts and sustainability program. Students learned sustainable farming techniques, intricate carpentry, textile design using natural dyes, and pottery, creating beautiful, functional art that was often integrated into the campus itself. The products of their craft, from hand-thrown ceramic mugs used in the new student-run cafe to benches carved from reclaimed wood, were tangible symbols of Crestwood's renewed purpose. The falcon crest, often subtly carved or painted onto these items, became a cherished mark of authenticity and craftsmanship. Ilara's influence extended beyond the campus. Her story, widely publicized in educational journals and even mainstream media, ignited a national conversation about equitable access to elite education and the redefinition of legacy. She became a sought-after speaker at educational conferences, advocating for holistic learning that nurtured both intellect and character. She championed programs that offered practical skills alongside academic rigor, arguing that true education empowered individuals to contribute meaningfully to the world, regardless of their chosen path. As for Serafina Dubois, her life had taken a drastically different turn. The suspension and public humiliation had shattered her world. The remote online academy she was forced to attend offered no social hierarchy to dominate, no sycophants to flatter her ego. Stripped of her external validation, she withered. Her parents, desperate to salvage their family's reputation, pushed her into grueling extracurriculars and charity work, hoping to rehabilitate her image. But without an audience, without the power to control and demean others, Serafina found herself utterly adrift, forced to confront the emptiness of a life built on superficiality. She often saw articles about Ilara, headlines praising her vision and integrity, and each one was a fresh, bitter sting. The irony of her fate was a relentless shadow, a constant reminder that the girl she had sought to obliterate had risen to define the very institution she had once taken for granted. The profound significance of Ilara's journey culminated during Crestwood's bicentennial celebration. Alumni from around the world gathered, many of whom had witnessed the dramatic Founders' Day Gala 2 years prior. The campus buzzed with a newfound vibrancy. In the heart of the Crestwood Learning Conservatory, surrounded by lush, thriving plants cultivated by the students, stood a magnificent new sculpture. It was a soaring falcon, meticulously crafted from reclaimed wood and recycled metal by students of the vocational arts program, its wings outstretched in a perpetual climb. At its base, etched into polished stone, was the original ornate Crestwood falcon crest, identical to the scar on Alara's wrist. During the dedication ceremony, Alara stood before the sculpture, surrounded by a diverse group of students, faculty, and proud alumni. She spoke not with grand pronouncements, but with a quiet, earnest humility. "My ancestors," she began, her voice clear and strong, "envisioned a place where every mind could soar, where talent knew no boundaries, and where compassion was as vital as intellect. Today, we are not just celebrating a legacy, we are actively living it. We are building a future where every student, regardless of their background, can find their wings." As she spoke, she unconsciously touched the scar on her wrist, a silent, powerful connection to her roots. The headmaster then unveiled a plaque beneath the sculpture. It read, "Dedicated to the enduring vision of the Crestwood founders, and to Alara Vance Crestwood, whose courage and integrity helped Crestwood Academy find its true north." As the crowd applauded, a wave of genuine warmth and respect washed over Alara. She looked at the faces around her, the diverse students, the dedicated teachers, the humbled alumni, and felt a profound sense of purpose. The mean girl had humiliated the shy new student, only to unwittingly unveil the very heiress who would not only transform the school's legacy, but redefine what it meant to be truly great. The unwritten rules of privilege had been entirely rewritten, replaced by the soaring, inclusive vision of a true leader, whose silent strength and profound compassion had finally brought Crestwood Academy home to its authentic, lasting legacy. Crestwood Academy had become a beacon, a model for educational institutions worldwide, a living testament to the transformative power of a truly compassionate vision. The ancient Gothic spires still touched the sky, but now they overlooked a campus vibrant with innovation, diversity, and an unparalleled spirit of genuine community. The falcon crest scar on Alara Vance Crestwood's left wrist, once a hidden mark of lineage, was now not just a logo, but an emblem woven into the very fabric of the academy, etched onto pathways, incorporated into stained glass windows, and even subtly illuminated in the new accessible student common areas, radiating a consistent, warm glow. Alara, now in her late 20s, held the esteemed title of Chancellor of Crestwood Academy. She hadn't sought the position, but it had naturally gravitated towards her, a recognition of her profound leadership and unwavering dedication. She led with a quiet authority, her decisions rooted in the foundational principles of accessibility, inclusivity, and environmental stewardship that her ancestors and her own journey had championed. Her amber eyes, perpetually bright and observant, held the wisdom of years spent rebuilding a legacy, keenly focused on the flourishing educational landscape she had cultivated. Under Chancellor Vance Crestwood's guidance, the merit-based scholarship system had expanded exponentially, drawing brilliant minds from every corner of the globe. Crestwood's student body was a vibrant mosaic of cultures, socioeconomic backgrounds, and unique perspectives, fostering a rich, dynamic learning environment that consistently produced groundbreaking research and innovative thinkers. The legacy of Crestwood was no longer defined by inherited wealth or social status, but by the intellectual curiosity, ethical leadership, and global consciousness of its diverse graduates. The Crestwood Learning Conservatory, born from Alara's love for the greenhouse, was now a sprawling, state-of-the-art facility, housing advanced hydroponics labs, rare botanical collections, and serving as a central hub for environmental research and sustainability initiatives. Its adjacent vocational arts studios produced not just beautiful crafts, but cutting-edge sustainable design solutions, integrating traditional skills with modern technology. Alara had spearheaded the establishment of the Crestwood Global Outreach Initiative, a pioneering program that partnered with underserved communities worldwide, building schools, funding educational resources, and establishing vocational training centers in remote areas. Crestwood students, through this initiative, gained invaluable real-world experience, applying their academic knowledge to address pressing global challenges, fostering a generation of empathetic, socially conscious leaders. The mean girl, who had once tried to ostracize Alara, would have been horrified by the idea of such widespread, selfless outreach. The story of Alara Vance Crestwood became a modern legend. Her memoir, The Unseen Crest, an honest account of her journey from shy outsider to transformative leader, resonated deeply, becoming a staple in leadership and educational reform curricula worldwide. It emphasized the power of quiet resilience, the importance of integrity, and the profound impact of challenging established norms with compassionate vision. She continued to be a sought-after speaker, her articulate voice inspiring countless individuals and institutions to reevaluate their own definitions of success and privilege. As for Serafina Dubois, her path diverged sharply. The public humiliation and isolation following her suspension proved to be a crucible. Stripped of her social power and forced to confront the emptiness of her superficial values, she underwent a painful, prolonged transformation. After struggling through her online education, she eventually found herself working in a nonprofit organization dedicated to combating social media bullying, an ironic twist of fate. Initially motivated by a desire for personal redemption, she slowly began to develop genuine empathy, understanding the devastating impact of the very behaviors she had once wielded. While she never regained her former social status, she found a quiet purpose in helping others navigate the cruelties of online interactions, anonymously sharing her own story as a cautionary tale. She often saw news about Chancellor Vance Crestwood, and though the initial pang of envy never entirely faded, it was now mixed with a grudging respect, even a quiet admiration for the profound legacy Alara had built. Serafina learned, through bitter experience, the true meaning of humility and the lasting value of genuine contribution over fleeting popularity. The narrative culminates on a warm, golden afternoon, exactly 10 years after the transformative Founders' Day Gala. Alara, dressed in a simple, elegant suit, stood in the beautifully restored Founders' Hall, now renamed Crestwood Legacy Hall. She was overseeing the final touches for the annual Crestwood Global Summit, an international conference bringing together educational leaders and philanthropists inspired by Crestwood's model. The hall, once a symbol of rigid exclusivity, now pulsed with a vibrant, welcoming energy. Sunlight streamed through newly installed stained glass windows that depicted not only the original Crestwood Falcon crest, but also diverse student faces, intertwined with symbols of global unity and environmental harmony. A young scholarship student, a brilliant girl from a remote village in Nepal, approached Alara, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Chancellor Vance Crestwood," she said, her voice filled with reverence. "Thank you. Because of you, I have a future. Because of you, Crestwood truly feels like home for everyone." Alara smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached her eyes. "This is not just my vision, my dear," she replied, her hand instinctively reaching for her left wrist, her fingers gently brushing over the familiar falcon crest scar. It vibrated with a profound, comforting warmth, a deep affirmation of the moment. "This is the true Crestwood. This is the legacy our founders always intended." She looked around the bustling hall, at the diverse faces, the vibrant discussions, the palpable sense of shared purpose. She saw students from all walks of life, collaborating, laughing, learning. The echoes of Serafina's cruel words were long gone, replaced by the symphony of a thriving, inclusive community. The mean girl had sought to humiliate the shy new student, only to unleash the powerful, quiet force that would redefine an entire institution, transforming it into a testament to the enduring power of kindness, true leadership, and a legacy that truly soared beyond the confines of wealth and privilege, finding its true north in the heart of compassion. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss upcoming narratives that delve into the profound human spirit and the power of unseen heroes. Thank you for joining our journey.